as much of the mad and macabre as they were to see that day.
Became a nightmare. I'm gonna do a walkthrough.
Over 1,300 pieces of evidence were collected from the crime scene.
Scratch marks along the wall.
There was no doubt something paranormal was going on.
And for that exact reason, I'll continue my research to drive away the darkness.
All right, welcome back and welcome to the new year. I finally am actually getting around to doing my first show of 2015. Even better yet, I get to welcome my very first co-host, Nicole Katsanes. Welcome.
Hi, thanks.
Now, for those of you that don't know Nicole, I'd like to have her for a moment kind of give you a little bit of background in her interest in paranormal, as well as, some of the background she has, I guess, life experiences in general, if you want to just sum it up real quick.
Sure. So I kind of had an interest starting when I was young, probably about 6 or 7. That's when I believe I saw a full body apparition kind of walk in front of me at the house I grew up in California. I talked to my parents about it, and they basically wrote it off. Anything I heard in the house or saw, they just kind of wrote off. Is the house settling? It's an old house, yada, yada, yada. So I kind of grew up writing everything off. And it wasn't until later in life that I actually thought, maybe there's something to this rather than it's just, a creaky ceiling or whatever. But it always scared the bejesus out of me. So I didn't really, delve into it until I met this lovely fellow named Ben.
Who, me?
And through learning through you and things to do, it's kind of brought it back into my life, and it doesn't scare me quite as much, and I'm able to handle it, and now I'm helping you with it.
Yeah, let's kind of talk about that a little bit. We could go back farther, but for right now, let's just kind of jump back the last 2-3 months and kind of discuss some of the ventures you and I have been a part of.
Okay.
Most recently, we were lucky enough to head out to the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado. The famed, Stanley Hotel, long steeped with history and the claim of supernatural phenomena, especially with Stephen King's, experiences that he had when he was writing, The Shining and Pet Sematary while staying there. So we got an opportunity to go out there, and that was an absolute blast. So why don't you just go down the path of, some of the stuff that we did while we were at the Stanley Hotel itself.
Well, we were there because of our good friend William Becker. He held a psychic, what was it called?
Development class.
Yeah, psychic development class. And we basically flew in Friday, and he had a class Friday night and Saturday. And it was really cool. We got to learn the history of the property and the different buildings, the owners throughout the years, things that have happened there. And we got to take a tour, and we also got to hear lots of, good information from William. He, just how to open up your psychic awareness and kind of be able to see things, not necessarily needing to use equipment. And we just, kind of hung out and had some really good talks.
Yeah, we had some really good talks.
Outside of the class.
Sometimes that's even the more valuable piece out of that, because anybody that does paranormal, research or investigations knows that all too often you're found just sitting there twiddling your thumbs.
Mm-hmm.
So conversation like this is great because it's an opportunity for us to talk, and you never know, you might just entice some spirits to, communicate back.
Yeah.
What about what do you recall with regard to the Lewis County Museum, that opportunity?
That was cool. I'd never been there. It's a really cool museum. If you have a chance to check it out, you should. We worked with a great group of people. It was us and Patty and...
Yeah, South Sound Paranormal Research.
And Jay Verberg was there, Michael White, and Casey Goodwin. And it was really, really fascinating. We were able to have the entire museum to ourselves. It was actually my first time doing the whole setup of an investigation and seeing everything that goes into setting up the cameras,
especially in a commercial type, application like that. It's a different ball game altogether compared to when you're working in somebody's home as well.
Right. I mean, there's so many different angles you have to think about, and
lights,
and getting up on top of stuff to try and get a whole room that has little nooks and crannies, and it was pretty crazy. It was very interesting. It was a great way to just kind of get in there and get my feet wet. And then after the setup, we were able to walk around. We broke up in groups. We were able to go upstairs into the attic, and it was really, really kind of cool. Especially having, like Patty had her senses of what some stuff that was going on, and
we had some odd things happen. Yeah. Some of it was explainable, and some of it was, we're still on the fence. We don't know exactly what took place, and that's okay too.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, we've got a lot going already towards this year, especially since ASEP merged with Oregon Paranormal last fall. We're getting ready to go to the Oregon Ghost Conference, which will be in April. And we've already got some other...
Right after my birthday.
Yep, right after your birthday. And, we've got other projects lined up, experiments that we're going to be doing, and cases are, coming at us. And so we're really excited for that opportunity. But tonight isn't really about so much us as it is our guest. Here in a moment, we're going to bring on Rick Hale, and I'll kind of give you a little bit of a rundown real quick of who Rick Hale is. He's a paranormal researcher, radio show host, and author. Rick is going to join us tonight from Chicago via the web. That's how most of our radio shows are done. And so we're going to hopefully have no technical difficulties while talking to him. But what we'll end up talking to him about is various topics related to not only his research, but to his book as well, which is called The Geek's Guide to the Strange and Unusual, Poltergeists, Ghosts, and Demons. He also used to co-host Paranormal Underground Radio with Karen Fraser herself, and he now has his own new show also on the Hazy Radio Network. So we're going to go ahead and get ready to bring him on, and we'll be right back. Hey, Rick. All right. So I just wanted to start off by welcoming you to ASEP Radio, and thank you very much for the time that you've, been able to set aside for this. Also, thank your lovely wife for giving you up for a little bit to join us tonight.
My agent, as I call her.
Yes, exactly.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're really lucky to have you and glad to have you. As you know, I've been kind of following some of your work, especially via Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
But recently I picked up your book. Yeah, you bet. And I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm not completely done with it, if I'm completely honest. However, between Nicole and I, we both have covered the whole book, so we're gonna definitely jump in on pieces of it.
Okay.
I admittedly, I'm not a very good reader, whereas Nicole, she's kind of a speed reader. I'm kind of a what would I call it? More of a
You kind of look and seek kind of reader.
yeah. I kind of like almost like
Done.
I search for what I want and I jump in, but
I'm kind of the same way, actually. It's I don't really read a lot of fiction. I read a lot of nonfiction because I'm looking for the the facts and the figures and
right.
Thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. So why don't you? Because one of my favorite things to do is just jump right in and kind of give us almost your genesis of where this all began for you. When your first moments of realizing there's something else going on in this world, and it's not easily explained, of course.
Well, with me, it first started. I was at a very young age. I was 8 years old, and I'm a native of the north side of Chicago, and my grandparents, they lived in a very old building in an area that's called Franklin Park, and I got up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, and I more or less ran into the spirit that I don't like using the word haunted, but inhabited my grandparents' apartment,
Right.
and I witnessed her and interacted with her. I mean, she actually reached down and touched my face and said in a very thick Irish accent, "My, what a fine boy," and just turned and walked down the hall and disappeared as she walked towards the kitchen. So, it was like I was 8 years old. That was back in 1982. So I've been doing this consistently now for, I don't know, math, Chicago public schools and all, being as they are, for 33 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that right there was that moment where you were like, okay, that was not a living person.
Right.
This woman did not belong here as far as, in the living world.
Right. And, we knew who she was. After I told my grandmother who it was that I saw, we knew who it was. It was Mrs. McNett. She was the wife of the landlord who was still very much alive.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. She had died about 10 years previously, back in the early 70s. And I wasn't the only one that saw her. My grandmother actually interacted with her on a daily basis. And my Uncle Luis, he pretty much saw her from day one. I've always kind of believed that, that Uncle Luis is psychic, but he'll never admit to it. But,
right.
Yeah. And being, raised in a very, very Catholic family, that kind of thing isn't really, isn't really looked on upon very well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, we knew who she was. I wasn't the only one that had seen her, and that's pretty much where it all started for me. So it's like I usually joke with people that it's like I knew about the dead before I could ride a bike.
Right.
But it's like it's not even really so much of a joke as it is. It's a fact. It's all I know, and it's all I've ever known for my entire life.
Yeah,
I'm going to be 41 here, and I'm going to be 41 here in a couple of weeks, and it's all I know.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I noticed on Facebook you were trying to hint about a present that you'd really be interested in. At least I think it was you that was hinting, wasn't it? The R2D2.
Oh no, that was something that a friend of mine in Washington D.C. had tagged me on.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, it was like this R2D2. He's a huge Star Wars fan, just like I am. So it's like he finds these things on the internet and he'll tag me in something, and I'll tag him and whatever. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that like anything that like R2D2 that really interests me was it was back in the late 80s or the early 90s. It was like an R2D2 soda pop, whatever,
right,
cooler in the shape of R2D2. But So,
Oh, I think I remember seeing that. As a matter of fact, that thing
Yeah.
was awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. To be somebody who collects that kind of crap would be a lot of fun, really.
Yeah.
But, you'd have to have those really big storage units as
Yeah,
well,
or a much bigger house.
or a much bigger house.
And
Yeah, I don't think Nicole
not
will
to
let me have that.
Well, not to mention the money too, because that stuff does not come cheap.
This is true. This is very true. So after, you're 8 years old, you have this experience.
Right.
When was it that you actually sought out, jumped out there and wanted to, start actually investigating or researching?
Well, I had researched from the time of from being 8 years old. And of course, this is back in the early 80s. We didn't really have all of, back then you couldn't just walk into a library and say, okay, where's all the books about ghosts? I mean, you were lucky if you found one or two books.
Right.
Unlike nowadays where you could just, walk into a bookstore, walk into a library, and it's like, holy crap, there's, 1,500 books on the subject, which is awesome, which I think is great.
Yeah, times have changed for sure.
Times have definitely changed, especially, it's within the last 10, 11, 12 years, whatever.
Right.
But it wasn't until 1991, about 9 years later, that I actually did what I consider to be my first investigation. And and it was definitely a baptism by fire. It was a young girl she was running away from a very bad situation where she was involved in a cult. This weird, like, devil worshipping sex cult or whatever.
Is this
And
Trina?
her name was Tina.
Oh, Tina. Okay.
Tina, yes. She's a nice girl. She was a cute girl. She was about my age. I think she was a year younger, so she was 16. And during the investigation, it was just she said that she had these things that were bugging her. These, like, I guess nowadays we call them shadow people, whatever. Back then we really didn't have, it was just like, this is just some kind of weird spirit or ghost or whatever that's bugging this poor girl.
Right.
And she was staying in the house of a friend of mine, and this friend, who and her family, they were devout Christians. Their home was always very warm and very inviting and very loving, and everybody got along, and it was great. But when this girl came into this home, she brought all sorts of bad mojo with her, just bad feelings. It's like any warmth in the house was now gone and was replaced by this constant psychic cold.
Oh, wow. Fascinating.
Yeah, it was just, this was not the house of my friend that I had known up to this point. After this point, it was very dark. It was very disturbing in the house, and whatever kind of warmth or love or light or whatever was gone because of this one girl. Yeah. And she was sleeping in the room that was opposite from us, and I had been sitting in this chair. Now, keep in mind, this is back before we have all the stuff that we have now. All the EMF detectors, and we had it back then, but it's like what my uncle had, who was an electrician. It was like this humongous box with dials and knobs on it, and two little, or not too little, like lightsaber size probes that you could, like, just put on something, and it would, the dials and everything would light up. That was your EMF detector.
Right.
Now you can just you got it in your pocket, and you're just like, excuse me while I whip this out, and
that's the way we like to do it.
And so we didn't have all this back then, so it's like the only thing I had was a piece of paper and a pen. So I'm writing down my impressions of the place, and it's about roughly 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and all of a sudden I hear Tina yell out, "They're here!" So I go into the next room, and it's very, very cold. I mean, just I could see my breath. And I start addressing this thing, and all of a sudden, just this big, huge black mass just, like, it appeared right in front of me, and something is going on with my computer. Ben, I think you're going to lose me.
And we did.
Wow, he's psychic.
All right. That was well timed on his part. We'll give him a second to come back, and we'll try to pick back up.
Columbia Network takes pleasure in bringing you Suspense. All
right, Rick. So we finally figured out you pissed the spirits off.
I doubt that.
Good job. The Microsoft spirits, that is.
The ghosts, yeah. It's definitely Microsoft. Thanks, Bill Gates.
Yeah.
So we could pick up right where we left off, correct?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So I'm standing there and I am addressing this thing. Now, this was back in the day when, we see this on television now with the provoking thing. I'm not really so much sure that it was provoking, but like, hey, I want to know who the hell you are and why it is that you're bothering this girl. Right. Anyways, so this big black shape just appears right in front of me, and the only way I can describe it is that it shoved me, and I fell right down on my butt. And I remember looking up at it, and it's like, of course, it's like this amorphous blob of darkness that's just kind of like there in the air. But as it was like dissipating, I'm not kidding you, I swear I heard it laugh.
Oh, like almost like I just sat you down and told you to shut up.
Exactly. Like, listen here,
or like
boy.
You asked and you received.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was like, listen here, boy. I'm going to tell you what I think, and that's exactly what it did.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now, after that,
uh-huh.
did you piss yourself? Did you get up and you're like, you son of a bitch? Or, I mean, what took place at that point?
By the time that it had disappeared, the environment in the room felt less charged and was actually starting to warm up. Now, keep in mind, this was in a non-air conditioned mobile home in Northern Illinois in September. Now, I don't know if you know about Northern Illinois in September, but it's still extremely hot and extremely humid at that time. And after this thing had disappeared, like I said, the environment had changed, and the air temperature began to began to warm up again.
Right.
So
it obviously had made its exit, and the atmosphere was responding as what we theoretically believe takes place. The warmth is restored,
right,
and there's a difference in the atmosphere electrically,
right.
Okay.
Yeah. Me personally, I don't go in for demons. I don't believe in that shit.
Right.
It's only because it's like I've never come across anything that is like has come to me and said, "Hi, I'm a demon. Nice to meet you." You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I've never come across anything like that. What I think that it was a thought form that a thought form being an entity that is created out of sheer will and some people believe magic.
Okay.
And I do believe that there was some psychokinesis that was involved there as well, because obviously the thing doesn't have, it lacks the necessary hardware to push. It doesn't have hands or whatever, but it does have the strength and the force of will. And
right.
I think that that's what happened.
So, do you think it was potentially because you said she was tied to a cult related to this guy?
Yeah.
She was dating, right?
Yeah, his name was.
Do you think that was maybe him?
I think that it was something that was created by him.
Okay.
And I don't like I said, I don't go in for demons and the devil, and not in the biblical Zach Bagans sense of the word, but I do believe that there is a force. If there's a force of good, there has to be a force of bad. I just don't believe in the biblical sense of it.
See, and I would actually agree with you too. And I personally was tormented by what I would deem a demon But again, it's like I tell people all the time, and I'm not trying to go off the track here, but like, if as a, and I know this is going to probably piss people off, but fuck them. But what I'm getting at is like, you know, I could walk into a room, the same room as a Catholic priest, and I could go M&Ms, peanut butter.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have the conviction and the willpower and keep going, it's a marathon.
Right.
And if I can outlast that demon per se, it doesn't give a shit what I'm telling it. It just matters. It's like, I need out of this, and this is not working. I wanted a host that was going to just lay down and let me have it, you know?
Right.
But that's my personal thoughts on it.
Yeah.
And so now, you know, Nicole and I were discussing this exact story pre, you know, tonight's conversation.
Okay.
And I know you were kind of curious about some.
Yeah. So in the book, you said that, you know, she's fine. She had the baby, moved on in life. Do you know by any chance what happened with the child? Like, is he normal and happy? And
The last that I had heard was maybe 10 years ago or so, that she did have the baby and that he did turn out okay. She got married to a nice guy, and she never had any problems again with this cult. I don't know where it is that she moved to. I don't know where it is that she's even living now to this day. And come to think of it, maybe it was a lot longer than 10 years ago, because I'm going to say it was before I had met my wife. And Jamie and I, we've been around, you know, we've been together since like 1999. So
Sure.
yeah, so I mean, it's definitely before then, the last that I had heard of her. But the last that I had heard, that they were doing fine.
okay,
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe now he has his own satanic cult.
I don't know, but I mean, I'm hoping that it's like, I'm a big believer in the happy ending, and I'm just hoping that they had you know, a happy ending.
Yeah. I'm a romantic as well. And I like the idea that something good can come out of something so bad.
Right.
And, you know, I hope the same for them as well, especially for the child.
I like how both of you men are like, oh, it's happy ending. And I'm like, he's like the leader of a satanic cult now. Like,
Well, you're twisted.
wow. Show me.
That's kind of disturbing, Ben. Sure you want to marry this
It's
girl?
the yin and yang.
Yeah,
yin and
you know,
yang.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a freak.
Exactly.
So one of the things I've been very focused on, in kind of almost like a retrospect of myself, is, you know, all along my life, I've had whatever job. I mean, from stocking shelves in a grocery store to landscaping to telecommunications and network engineering, you name it, all sorts of, you know, odd jobs in between. I've been thinking back about how all of those things have been my almost it's been fate's way of saying, okay, we're going to give you some experience here and experience here, all for the long run of being a pretty solid, if I may say so myself, solid paranormal researcher.
Yeah, I would say you are.
So, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm kind of curious, you know, what do you do for a day job? And do you feel like things that you've done throughout your life have come around full circle and are now benefiting what you do as a paranormal, you know, researcher?
Well, you know, currently, for the last, it'll be 15 years this September. I can't tell you where I work because of the laws that we have here in the state of Illinois. But I can tell you is that I work in a residential treatment facility, and I work with kids that have behavioral disorders, conduct disorders, you know, that kind of thing.
Right.
You know, I've worked retail, I've worked security. I can't really, the only thing that I could say is that working this job that I've worked in for the last 15 years has really helped me develop a fine-tuned bullshit-o-meter. And I do believe that bullshit-o-meter does help out in this field, because it's like, you know, I can tell, you know, if like somebody's telling me, it's like, well, I have this that's going on in my house. It's like, are you sure about that? You know, and
Right.
it has happened. I mean, I think that you can be a believer in
Hmm.
the supernatural, but you can remain a skeptic in, you know, in certain instances.
Yeah, I would say that's very fair
Yeah.
statement. So and I man, the whole idea of the bullshitometer is great because all too often we're out there, we're trying to give the benefit of the doubt. And I
And
am
I
one of
do.
those kind of people. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you do because I was reading even about you talking about that in some of the post comments in one of your posts.
Right.
And so I align that way as well. But it's so disheartening when you discover, that somebody's screwing with you, that they've got another hidden agenda or they're just out for attention.
Mm-hmm.
And it really makes it's really hard to stay focused on the facts of the case
Right.
when you have nothing but lies coming at you, or you're starting to suspect that there are more lies
Right.
than there were.
Well, and that's what I wrote about, you know, with this series that I'm writing right now. When a haunting is not a haunting, this first thing was, you know, the groupie. Um, this is a fairly new, or relatively new phenomena that we have to deal with now. Is that people who dig what we do so much
Yeah.
that they will actually, you know, manufacture a haunting so you'll come to their house and they can watch you do whatever. And that's exactly what myself and some of my colleagues had to deal with in that instance. Is like, there's nothing in your home. In fact, this
Yeah.
is probably the most unhaunted house that I've ever been in. And it's weird too, because it's like she was telling us how a psychic told us, well, we have 99, this psychic told us we have 99 ghosts in our house. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like, with 99 ghosts in this small 3-bedroom house, this place should be like the frat house of the damned, man. I should be brushing
Right.
against ass and titties all over this place.
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's
She's
like
got 99 ghosts, but
99 ghosts.
there ain't one.
Yeah, really, exactly. But it's like we found nothing in this house, and the whole time that we're conducting the investigation, oh God, I think what you guys do is so cool. I wish that I had the courage to do what you guys do. I love the television shows that you guys do. And it's like what I wrote in the post is exactly what I believe. Try to, you know, make yourself as unimportant as possible. Don't focus
Right.
on you. Focus on what these people have that they claim to have going on in their home.
Well, the sad thing, I think, is that a lot of these people don't know what we do.
They
Yeah.
don't.
They are so caught up in the show.
Right?
Like, there's supernaturals out there. There is Charmed. There's all these, supernatural shows.
Mhm.
And they get so wrapped up in them
Yeah.
that they want it to happen in their lives, too. Or they want to be a part of it. And so it's like, hey, let's get a paranormal researcher out here. Sure.
Yeah.
We'll make this up. And now it's in my house. Like, I don't have to watch it on TV. They're right here, right now.
Exactly. So it's like what you kind of turn into is you turn into entertainment. And I had that happen one time before too. This is another case that I can't talk about, otherwise it's going to wind up getting me sued. But we
don't need that.
Exactly. When I used to be with McHenry County Paranormal Research Group, we got contacted by a village here in Northern Illinois, one of the more upscale ones, to investigate their village hall. Now, we're down in the basement and we're taking readings down there. And this area was allegedly where the girl she was raped and then set on fire.
Whoa.
Yeah, and left to die. Now, I can tell you with all honesty, this place was and is truly haunted. I myself saw one of the spirits he just like appeared like 20 feet away from me. And I saw him. I saw the spirit. I can tell you with all honesty, this place is haunted.
Wow.
So we're downstairs in the basement where this girl was, raped, where she was brutally raped and then set on fire by these people. And
Jesus.
It gets better, Ben. All of a sudden, we hear "Happy birthday to you."
What?
They were having a birthday party while we were doing the investigation.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. I mean, flabbergasted is a word that people use quite a bit, but it's a word that has like real strong connotations. It means that you are so rendered speechless that you have nothing to say. And it's like, I was flabbergasted. I couldn't believe that we were the entertainment for an investigation of a place that really is haunted. You know, it was
That's insane.
so weird.
And talk about being very just disconnected from what you guys are trying to actually do. You know, to be that, I guess, in that groupie mind state. You know,
Yeah.
Man.
But it's so sad because it's like Timmy doesn't want a clown this year. He wants a paranormal investigation. Like,
Well, it's
really?
like Ghostbusters too, where where Ray and Winston they go to this kid's house on the Upper West Side, this rich little bastard, and there's something strange, and then they like, are we supposed to do this? It was,
That's a perfect example. Actually,
so
you became the real life version of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did.
That sucks. So I would love someday to over beers, because I know Nicole and I are gonna try to make our way out to Chicago.
Oh,
Yeah, we were gonna do it in April, but we're gonna actually head out to Sedona for some. You know, we're trying to absorb that whole Sedona vibe, man.
that new age thing. Yeah, my brother and his partner they live in Phoenix, and both he and Mike are always telling us about, my God, Sedona is beautiful. I mean, it's just the positive energy there is amazing. So yeah, I mean, definitely, you know, the missus and I would like to get out there sometime.
Yeah, we're gonna check that out. But next on our list is definitely Chicago. You know, I got to go rub the bean.
Yes.
Yeah, so we'd love to
Flick
have
it
you
around.
out here on the farm, man. We'd have, like, you know, burgers and beers or something.
Oh, dude, that'd be sweet.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So let's talk about your methodology towards your, you know, how you conduct paranormal research. Everybody's got their own thing, right? But,
Yeah.
You know, you've got a very unique way of doing things. So I'd like to, you know, hear a little bit more about that.
Well, you know, I get taken to task by this all the time, because it's like, it is different than what we have nowadays. To me, my job is to observe, document, and report. Okay.
Right.
That is my motto when I'm conducting an investigation. I insert myself as little as possible into the home, or a home or business. I really kind of specialize in private homes. So it's like, I don't run with like a huge group. It's usually me, an assistant, and a psychic medium.
Sure.
That's basically all. That's all we do. I have equipment. I use it. I wish I could afford more. But it's like, my idea about it is this. I don't go into a person's home or business or whatever as either a believer or an unbeliever. I am there to listen to their story, even if it is complete and utter bullshit, or if
Right.
it's somebody that's playing games like this individual, or, you know, this town that was, you know, having fun with us. But
Right.
exactly. My job is not to go in and try to debunk, or I don't operate under the assumption that you're either lying to me, a crazy person, or you're some kind of drug addict.
Right.
That I don't operate under that assumption. I listen to your story. I conduct the investigation, and if I can find alternative means to say, this is what you have that's really going on in your house, and God knows, I mean, obviously it's there. You know, I mean, you're going to have
Sure.
mice in the walls. I have birds right now in the air conditioner that's in our bedroom. I can hear them chirping and scratching and stuff, and it happens, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, I think it's very disingenuous, not to mention incredibly unethical, when you go into somebody's house and, like I said, operate under the assumption that there's some kind of a crazy person, or they're lying to you, or they're a drug addict of some kind. that's incredibly disingenuous, because I don't
It's
live in
egotistical too,
that.
because
It's egotistical.
it comes across as you're like, well, I've got you figured out already.
Right. I don't live there. I'm not there
Yeah.
24/7, 365 days a year. These people, they perceive that something odd is happening in their home. So they call somebody like myself or like yourself to come in and find out what's going on, for better or worse. It's either animals, scratching, or you have, 99 ghosts living in your home. Either way, it's like, I don't go in a believer or an unbeliever. I think that this is, it's like they always talk about, well, objectivity, objectivity, objectivity. But when you go in there and you're going to like, I'm going to disprove this, or I'm going to debunk this or whatever, it's like, but you've already gone in there with the assumption that something is not going on.
Right.
Or
it's
you
like
go in
Casey
there,
says all the time. Oh, go ahead.
or I'm just saying, or the other end of the spectrum, you go in there thinking that, oh my God, the dog just farted and it said it's a ghost trying to kill me.
Exactly. And that kind of ties with what I was going to say is Casey makes a great point all the time, and I love it, is that he'll see people post on their Facebook. It's the psychological mind frame that they're either one, backing themselves in a corner to, or two, predispositioning, things. But they'll literally say, we got an investigation tonight and I can't wait to see what evidence we got. Well, Jesus, dude, how do you know you got any evidence right out of the bag before you've even stepped into your own shoes?
Right. That's called expectation. You're going into
Yeah.
this place expecting something to happen. So of course your brain is going to see things that aren't, that your eyes are going to see things that they may not actually be there. Or, you're going to hear things, like the parakeet farting or whatever. It's like
That's a great visual.
Yeah, exactly. But do parakeets fart? I ask
I don't know.
this. But it's like that's expectation.
Yeah.
If you think something is going to happen, chances are psychologically it's going to happen, whether or not it is real or not.
Well, and it's a numbers game too. So like you want this, so you expect it, and then somebody ate Taco Bell before the investigation, their gut gurgles, while you're doing an EVP session, and you're like, oh yeah, that right there was a demon. And you're like, yes, it was the demon from his digestive tract. But
yeah, well, you know what? Hey, word to the wise man: don't ever eat Taco Bell before an investigation.
I hear you.
You agree? Sorry about that. I interrupted you.
No, that's fine.
Or it's like, you're taking video and all of a sudden you see like this little ball of light that goes blinking across, and it's like, oh my God, that's an orb. It's like, oh my God, that's a fucking insect. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or that's a piece of dust. Or that is like, that does not represent, that is not evidence. You know what I'm saying?
And
that's just,
and I'm sure you've been through this countless times, but here we are, you share your personal interests with random people, whether you're at a birthday party or at a local pub or at work even, and they realize they're like, oh, you're a paranormal researcher. And of course, they just so happen to have some photos on their phone or whatever. They're like, check this out. Look at that.
Boom!
And you're like, oh my God, not orbs again. People, stop using your fucking flash.
Now,
yeah.
Okay, now, but allow me to say this. I have seen flashing balls of light with my own eyes. I have seen this.
So have I.
Okay.
So have I.
Take a look at the whole, entity case that Barry Taft did back in the 70s, when they made the famous movie. I mean, those pictures, you can't deny those pictures. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you. And I think we're both completely on the same playing field.
Yeah.
We both know what, the faux orbs are.
Right.
But we also know what there are legitimate things that yet we have been able to explain away. And I've actually done my own fair share of experimentation.
Mm-hmm.
I have video footage where I took, because I have video footage from a case I investigated.
Mm-hmm.
and pulled away some very interesting light orbs that I can't explain. And so I took it further by saying, okay, you know, some of my other colleagues were like, it's got to be bugs. Well, I was like, well, this was dead of winter, like early February. And, you know, we were inside a house. So I thought, okay, let's just take this further. So during the dead of summer, where we've got, you know, just millions and millions of bugs everywhere, I went out with a big spotlight and a halogen light, and I fired both of them up on a big white sheet that I spread across a pathway near a body of water, because obviously you're going to have a lot of bugs there.
That's cool, man.
And yeah, and I set up my night vision camera with the infrared lamp and everything on it, just in the same scenario as it was in the home. And I let those two lights just hit that white sheet forever, and you know, it was just coated in insects.
Right.
And then I killed the lights and started the recording in night vision and watched those bugs ultimately scatter. It gave me hundreds of different you know, references of different types of bugs or different flight patterns to and from this thing as they left. Nothing, and I mean nothing, looked anything like what I saw. So
exactly,
I can honestly agree with you that there is, and that's why I tell people all the time, I'm like, don't go that far. Don't put a big circle with a line through it saying we don't consider orbs, because you're doing a big disjustice. What I'm saying is, yes, you're going to have to look through all the crap. You're going to have to wade through all the stuff that we know is inside and out, that it's not anything supernatural in origin. However, the less than 1% of the stuff that may come to you, you might be blown away and not be able to figure out, and it may be valuable information.
Right. Yeah, you know, it's like I have a colleague of mine in the United Kingdom who is just, it's like he doesn't even want to hear about orbs whatsoever. Doesn't care about it, anything like that. And it's like I agree to him. I agree with him for about maybe 90% of what he has to say. I mean, I can dig it,
right,
man. You know, it's like you're gonna get, you know, bugs and you're gonna get dust or whatever. But it's like when you're videotaping something or you're seeing something and it's moving and leaving like a long, like misty streak behind it, and man, it is like moving with intent and purpose. That's not a bug, man. That's not dust. That's not water vapor. That is something that is, I'm not going to say it's a ghost. I will say as of yet unexplained.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I think it's very fair. And I've always tried to, you know, explain to people, in my way, I kind of coined it. I always said it's got a George Jetson flight path.
Yeah. It's
kind of motoring around, defying everything else there. And it has a sort of its own agenda, per se. And not only that, you can watch it going in and out of frame, and the light intensity doesn't change, or sometimes it literally just starts emitting its own light, like starts glowing on its own. I mean, there's, you know, a variety of different phenomena that's related to this orb that I've seen, that I can't dismiss away being bugs, you know, dust, you name it. So real quick, let's go ahead and take a break.
Okay.
And we'll reconvene after the break, and then we'll kind of pick up and we'll touch on some of the concepts of, you know, a lot of folks out there talking about skepticism.
Okay.
But I'd like to also really start exposing more people to skepticism versus cynicism.
Yeah. I think that's important.
And I think so too. So, and then talking about, you know, death of the body and the survival of its intelligence and stuff like that before we roll into the last segment of talking shit. So
okay.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to ASIP Radio. I'm Ben.
I'm Nicole.
And we're with Rick Hale tonight talking about all sorts of different things regarding his research and some of the work he's done writing. And we'll be also touching on his show as well here in a moment. But real quick, I want to give a big shout out to Mike Smith over at the Info Sub. He always airs ASAP Radio along with Oregon Paranormal Radio, and I want to make sure that everybody goes and takes a look at their Facebook page. You can visit their Facebook page and even all the other great content that Info Sub puts out there by going to facebook.com/the Info Sub. Additionally, you can visit their website at www.infosublisten2myradio.com. Thanks again, Mike Smith, for airing ASAP Radio. And
thanks, Mike.
Yeah. All right. So we were talking about orbs and all that awesome shit that comes along with it. I guess at this point, we can really we could touch a little bit, finish with that, I guess, by a question that, a good friend of both of ours and colleague, Michael White, I know a lot of people have a hard time sometimes even grasping some of the humor behind Michael, but I know that there's some seriousness in what he's even asking here. And the question he kind of wanted me to throw out there real quick regarding kind of what we were talking about was, how is, legitimate paranormal researchers supposed to maintain their sanity when they're faced with the myriad of misunderstanding? For example, he had put a picture up on the post, that is like a chart of orb colors. And there's actual people who subscribe to the concept that the color of an orb indicates something. Mm-hmm. So it's a great example of some of the stuff that we're faced with as paranormal researchers that is just, well, in my humble opinion, a little asinine, and it just kind of muddies the water. It becomes a little ridiculous, to a certain extent.
Right. It's kind of the same thing that they dealt with when the Society for Psychical Research was created back in the 1880s in London. They had to wade through all the silliness that was going on, because at that time it was like spiritualism was at its height,
right,
of popularity, and it's like we're seeing that again today. So it's like, and that's the reason why the society was created, was to get through all of the silliness. Of course, that's not the words that they use, but the idea was certainly implied.
Right.
To get to the real science of life after death, and how the mind works. And I think that's what we have to do today too. And it's like I've said before, it's like oftentimes I'll do an investigation, and the first half hour, 45 minutes, is me convincing the people you don't have a demon in your home.
Right.
Now that's the thing that we have to deal with now, more so than they had to deal with back, 130 years ago or whatever, because of the popularity of the television shows.
Yep.
I don't really like talking about the television shows too much anymore, because I get a whole lot of nasty grams because of
Well, and we don't need to give them any more attention than they're getting. I mean, we could even focus on the fact of just Hollywood in its own right is, doing a fine job of covering that, from movies like The Conjuring, The Possession, the Taking of Deborah Logan, so on and so forth.
I've never heard of that one. What's The Taking of Deborah Logan?
Yeah. This is a nice little side note. Casey Goodwin and I, we go back and forth all the time. That little shit, I tell you. I love him to death, but him and I, for whatever reason, differ so much on what we love about our horror movies. And so, in all fairness, I'm going to go back and watch this movie again, but Nicole and I had watched it, and there was a couple good scenes, and we were like, oh, wow, that's awesome. But mostly we were kind of like, what the hell? But Casey loved it.
Really?
And so we're always joking. Like you may have seen the trailer that came out. Oh God, what's it? There's a new movie going to come out. Totally dropping it right now. But anyways, I posted it on his Facebook, and I said, "You and me, we should go check this out. And for the hell of it, let's just have a duel to the death afterwards. If we don't meet on like liking it or not liking it at the same time, we always have differences there. But yeah." Go ahead.
Do me a favor. Can you Facebook message me the name of that movie so I can look that up later on?
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, definitely. It is honestly, I'm going to go back and watch it because, some of the things, like when talking with Casey and, his views on it, it sounds like it should be better than what I remember.
He converted you.
I don't know about that. But yeah, there's definitely some good stuff to it, but I just thought some of the acting may have been off, but I don't know. I may have not been in the right mood that night or something.
Could be.
But so, we're talking about, dealing with a lot of the things that are out there. Hollywood doesn't make it any easier. Obviously, we're not going to talk about the TV shows, but they do their fair share of really making this hard for, legitimate researchers to wade through the muck that is left behind from that, especially with such influential, viewers or consumers out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think this ties to it to a certain extent, but it's one thing for us to be skeptical, or even folks out there to be skeptical. But what is your thoughts, or where do you think it becomes people are actually misconstruing that as well, that they're actually being skeptical, but they're actually being far more of a cynic and they don't really get it?
Yeah, I you know what? It's like with the skeptic. I mean, obviously, you have to. You got to keep guarded somehow because you don't want to fall for everything. I like to say that it's like, keeping an open mind does not believe in everything that, is not believing everything that you hear or see.
Right.
I mean, obviously. I think the difference between a skeptic is skepticism is good. Skepticism is, try saying that 5 times fast,
right,
is safe. It's natural for mankind. But then you have cynicism. And cynicism comes in where it's like, this shit couldn't possibly be real. I don't care. Some of the the famous cynics that I can think of, they call themselves skeptics, but they're more cynics, like the amazing Randy, or the not so amazing Randy, as I like to call him, or Joe Nickel. These guys are cynics. They're not skeptics. They're not in there to try and explain a phenomena. They're there to explain it away. And there is a difference. And within explaining a phenomenon is what a skeptic will do. Right. Explaining away the phenomenon is what a cynic will do. A cynic just says, this shit can possibly be real. I don't care what you say. I'm not even going to listen to what your personal experience is. I don't give a shit because I know better than you.
I'm going to throw up $1 million to always shut you down and say that your crap is full of it. And yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're never going to buy it no matter how much you bring evidence, empirical data or whatever to them. Mm-hmm. They're just not going to buy it, and that's because they've completely closed their mind off to it being a possibility or a plausible alternate explanation out there.
But you know what I think is really funny is that the arch skeptic, I mean, the guy that started it all, Dr. Michael Shermer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's the guy, ran Skeptic magazine. He was the smug-faced bastard that you saw on all the paranormal, documentary type shows, who, basically making fun of people like, you or I, until recently, where he had a supernatural experience, getting married. He was getting married, and his wife-to-be had this music box that was given to her by her dad, and her dad was now dead. Well, he witnessed and heard the music box playing this song.
Oh.
But now the music box didn't have anything on the inside to make this thing play its song. So he is now faced with, holy shit, I've been wrong this entire time.
Egg on his face.
Exactly. And it's like, you want to say to the guy, it's like, ha ha, F you, we've known this stuff all along. But instead you kind of find yourself saying, it's like, do you see?
Yeah.
You've been such an incredible cynic about this, shutting all this stuff down for years, making fun of people on these various different television shows, and now you're faced with this. How do you explain that? And I was reading the article that he had written himself personally about it, saying that now he is a believer.
I would love to see that article, actually.
You should be able to still find it online somewhere. If you know what, just type in Dr. Michael Shermer supernatural experience or whatever.
Okay.
And I'm sure that you'll be able to find the article on the subject. But it's like, now this guy is like faced with, I've been making fun of these people all these years, and now I'm one of them.
Right. Well,
that's got to be hard, man.
Well, yeah, that's a jagged pill to have to swallow.
Exactly.
But that's why I say to people all the time, it's like, look, I get it, you haven't had anything profound happen to you that's shifted your paradigm. I get it. But just because it hasn't happened to you does not mean the rest of us are full of shit. Now, there also can be cynicism, or how should I word this? I've seen it happen, or is happening somewhat in this field of research too, that you have people that are in this field, but they're so focused on just having only empirical data and something to catalog and put away, that the personal experience is no longer something that is allowed to be considered as just data itself. And so that, to me, that almost becomes somewhat of a cynic stance, because I would argue this. Okay, the Smiths lived in a house for 10 years and they had supernatural phenomena taking place. They were seeing people in timepiece period, clothing, and they move out a month later. The Johnsons move in, and they know nothing of the Smiths. They know nothing about the history of the house, nothing that there was even supernatural phenomena taking place. And then all of a sudden they start having the same thing happen that the Smiths had. Science cannot take that from them, that personal experience. And the fact that none of them were predispositioned, influenced, or biased in any, fashion. They purely just came into a home that had, beings there and experienced the same thing other people did. Whether or not we could come in there as paranormal researchers and document that is really doesn't take away from, and that's why, like, if we go back to what you were talking about in the very beginning, you sit there and talk to the clients. You don't come in there already with this idea that they're crazy or they're full of it. You sit down and listen to their story and give them an opportunity to tell you, what's going on without being judged.
See, and that's exactly it. It's like, okay, you have, and I've talked, and I've had them as guests on when I was co-hosting Paranormal Underground Radio. We've had them on as guests. It's like, they will completely disregard these, the personal experiences. And then it's like, you got a question. It's like, why do you even care?
Right.
Why are you even there? I mean, if you're going to completely disregard the personal experience, which the personal experience is what sparks the investigation, the interest. I mean, it's like, you did not evolve with a millimeter, coming out of your hand. You evolved your five senses, and some people, to a greater degree, a sixth sense.
Right.
And we evolved that because we had to. It was for survival that we had to evolve these senses. And it's like, so you're going to just completely say it's like, well, you know, you can't believe what your eyes or your brain tell you. Hell yeah, you can believe what it tells you, because that is your experience. I mean, sure, it's like there's people out there who are going to embellish their experience, but they still saw or experienced something that they can't completely explain. And to completely disregard that is throwing the baby out with the bathwater, man.
Right.
It's like, at that point, why bother? Just stay home.
Yeah.
Watch, Mystery Science Theater 3000 and drink a couple of beers while you let the rest of us try to get to the bottom of, of a mystery. Sorry, I don't mean to sound like all Scooby-Doo about it.
Yeah, meddling kids.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo. Still more credibility than Ghost Adventures.
Right? No joke.
But
Ruh-roh.
yeah, allow the rest of us to get to the bottom of this. Please stay home.
Yeah, and that's where I find myself kind of looking at them and going, "What are you doing then? Like, you're doing nothing positive on any level. You're if anything becoming more of a
pain in the ass.
A pain in the ass and a obstacle for others who are trying to do this. Again, it's like you said, skepticism is a healthy, natural thing, and I embrace it and I encourage it. But you got to understand the difference between skepticism and cynicism.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this. Is I loved what I've read so far in the book, because it's a lot of it's a mixture of anecdotal accounts and past stories over the duration of most recorded man history, but it's also like I said, ties in with some of what your thoughts were and some of your experiences as well. I love discussing the concept of the death of the body and the survival of its intelligence. Why don't you give us your idea on what exactly that encompasses?
Well, it's like we are made up of energy, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
I would agree.
I mean, just us talking right now on, you're 2,000 miles away or whatever on the other side of the United States. This is kinetic energy. We are putting out energy. We are energy. It is inside of us. And this energy, I believe, makes up human consciousness, or the mind. Well, sooner or later, and for better or worse, and yeah, that shit may suck, but you're going to die. Bummer. Get over it. But you still have that consciousness, that mind, that energy that still needs to go somewhere. And it doesn't get destroyed. It just gets changed. I mean, I believe that's the third law of thermodynamics. And that gets stuck here in the earth plane for, whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's what it is. I just think that it's like this energy of consciousness, this energy of the mind, that just, your body dies, bummer, just the shell. It gets buried, or it gets burned, or it gets dumped in the deepest part of the ocean or whatever.
Right.
But that mind still exists, and that's what I believe a ghost is, more or less. Spirit, soul, spook, specter, ghost, whatever shit's gonna happen and who you're gonna call.
Exactly.
But, it's like, I believe that that's what that is.
Yeah, I think, the idea that just because the physical shell is no longer a portion of the equation, that there's still more to us, and that continues on. It may change as well. It may convert into something else, but again, it's still there. It has not rotted away with the flesh and bone. So I think what I struggle with sometimes with regard to the intelligence is like, I totally get, like, when you're talking about when a spirit lacks the hardware to do something physical, that's where I struggle, because I'm like, then what explains that? And is it, kinetic energy? Is it their way of being able to manipulate and use energy to
And that's what that is.
Yeah. But yet it feels like, or at least from my own personal experiences, it feels like what I would express as being almost like a human interaction, a physical human interaction from what I've gone through. And kind of maybe for you in the same way, where you said that spirit had pushed you down. It probably felt very similar, or at least I'm assuming that it felt very similar to when a living person pushed you down.
Yeah.
But yet it wasn't a living person.
Exactly. But I mean, there was just that manipulation of energy. And that's what psychokinesis is a manipulation of energy. And I do believe that that's, what that is. I mean, obviously, the spirit is immaterial. It cannot physically touch you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like not, it can't just come up to Ben Robinson, and do a tune in Tokyo on your nipples or whatever. It's not really doing that.
But if it does, I better have a GoPro running, because I want to capture that.
I know, right? But it's just that it's like it's manipulating energy. It's using psychokinesis to do that.
Right. It kind of always makes me think of the scene out of Ghost, where that grumpy spirit in the subway shows Patrick Swayze how to kick a can around, and yeah, exactly. So I always think of it kind of similar. And I thought that was always a great example of what theoretically, is believed to be a way for them to do that.
Exactly, and that is something that I really, really appreciated about that movie is that I would really be interested to know who they talk to, if they talk to it, because I really think that it's like, hey, maybe they really actually took the time and sought out a parapsychologist, but that was also the late 80s, and that's pretty much all you really had back then.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's not like you could just, call up Joe Blow Ghost Hunter and say, hey, man, why do you think this thing kicked the can? It's like, I don't know. It's like, all right, we'll go with that,
Yeah. All right, so the last segment of my show I always reserve more as a way to give my guests an opportunity to speak their mind.
I've been doing that all night long.
Well, yeah, and that's fine as well. Maybe in this segment we can talk about what you think is being done correctly, or that you would, applaud as being a valiant effort, and things that are positive that are going on. But then on the flip, what do you think that's being done wrong? What is a disservice to what we're doing and actually hurting, our efforts?
I think one of the things that's really great that I'm seeing in the field right now is experimentation with new gadgets, which I think is cool. I mean, this is at the heart of paranormal research and investigation, is seeing if these things really do work.
Right.
And a lot of them appear to do. A lot of them do appear to work. I know that if any of my, the parapsychologists out there that even dare to call me a colleague, would probably take me to task for something like this. But it's like, I do think that some of this stuff does work. And I think that, we're experimenting with more and more. And, hopefully one of these days somebody is going to finally create something that you can point at a ghost and say, yep, it's a ghost.
Right.
But you don't have anything like that yet.
Now, is there a piece of equipment that you've seen in action that you were very impressed with, that you think, okay, this is on the leading edge of some of the technology out there? Because I'm kind of a technology junkie, and I love looking at that stuff. I have an Arduino board sitting 2 feet from me that I'm working on, trying to figure out how to turn into some form of research equipment. So I'm always I always enjoy trying to hear about new pieces of equipment people are seeing out there that they think is, really doing some really good research for us.
I really like the the ultraviolet camera. What do they call that? Why am I drawing a blank all of a sudden?
The full spectrum?
Full spectrum. Thank you.
Okay.
I really dig the full spectrum camera, man. I mean, I don't own one, but when I was working with McHenry County Paranormal Research Group, caught some cool images that were.
Yeah.
I can't really explain that. I really dug that.
Well, conceptually too, I like the idea of that. Okay, it kind of backs some of personal experiences that people have seen for millennia, things out of the corner of their eyes or in the dark, and so conceptually, we can say, okay, well, maybe there's something to it that maybe we need to consider looking at the broader scope of the light field. Mm-hmm. And therefore, we started using night vision. I've seen people argue, some douches online that, have their arguments about, well, somebody just did it and it looked good. And matter of fact, I was watching an old episode of In Search Of, and they showed, this was way back in the 70s, they showed a crew of guys going into a location using night vision, and not only that, thermal imaging. Oh. And yeah, it kind of blew me away. I had no idea. And here you got Leonard Nimoy, in the show, hosting it. And here's this technology that they're using that a lot of people have all but thought was something that just got implemented in the field back in the early 2000s, yet it's been around for damn near 40 years, or maybe over 40 years. But
well, let me ask you this: Have you gotten to the mustache episodes yet?
So it's funny you bring this up, because I was at work today and I was like, all right, I'll put it on in between, working with the technicians and stuff, and I brought up YouTube, and I found somebody who had built a YouTube channel dedicated to In Search Of, and on each movie clip is a thumbnail from that video, and there was Leonard Nimoy rocking that stash.
Does
I was like,
that's what fabulous in that mustache.
He does.
He does, man.
He's very, very dapper looking with that thing. I was like, that's what Rick's talking about.
I don't remember what episode it was I was watching, but I'm like, holy shit, man, Spock can rock that stash, dude. It just looked great on him.
Not only can he rock a stash, he can rock pointy ears and really well done or not manicured, but what would you call it, honey? When you do your eyebrows, plucked. Oh yeah, and remember how
the goatee?
Yeah.
Mirror. Mirror.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah. So, it's just, there's a lot of stuff that's being tried out there, and that's good, and I applaud them for that. Yeah. But then there's a lot of stuff that I think is being regurgitated or trying to reinvent itself a bit, or be reinvented by somebody.
Oh, you mean box? Oh my God! It just said my name. It's like, say your name.
It's a numbers game, man. All it's doing is going through channels, and sure enough, it's going to give you a very, it's going to give you something that's going to sound like a direct response. But
Yeah.
that one just boggles me as to how many people are just sold on it. Just like, I'm not really dissing Bill Chappell. I'm not the biggest fan of his. He comes across as a pretty arrogant guy from what I've read and seen and heard of him. But my biggest argument has always been like the Ovulus. Okay, what a great concept and everything, but how did Bill figure out that, when the dew point changes to this much, EMF spike of that much, and I don't know, the wind blows to the east, that means the word murder, or, so on and so forth. How in the hell does this guy really come up with this? And I know that, people like Frank Sumption and others have claimed that there was spiritual influence, guidance to that. And I think that Bill Chappell is also kind of on that, or at least is kind of jumped on that bandwagon a bit.
Well, of course he does, because it helps, try to explain what it is that he's doing.
Exactly. Yet when you go to buy his piece of equipment, you have to click, I don't know, it seems like 20 times that, yes, I know that this is just for entertainment purposes only. Yes, I know this does not prove, and yet people will go around marching around with that thing and believe everything it does. Does that mean it doesn't provide any kind of proof or interaction with the spirit world? I can't say.
Proof word, man. You got to watch that proof word.
I know. Yeah. And that's the problem, is there are people out there that will throw that around with that device too, thinking that that's what it is. Yeah, it's proof. It's proof. Just like when the K2 goes up, that's proof that a spirit was here. And it's like, oh my God. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, is there any other things that you think, maybe even from a almost like a practice standpoint or mentality that we're doing right out there that you've witnessed and seen, or that we're doing wrong?
I think one of the big, and I get asked this all the time. Now, keep in mind, I grew up in a Pentecostal church. So whenever somebody asks
that must have been cold.
Yeah, it was very strange. When people ask the question, so when did you become to believe in the paranormal? My brain automatically goes, testify, brothers and sisters. You know what I'm saying? Right. And it's like people turn this into a religion to the point where they're trying to proselytize people.
Yep.
And it's like, I'm not trying to convert anybody, and I don't think you should try to convert anybody either. It's like they get bent out of shape, man, if they talk to somebody and they're like, oh, well, I don't believe that. It's like, well, what do you mean you don't believe that? It's like, well, they don't believe that. Just leave it alone,
Right. This
is not a religion. This is a field of scientific, let's put it in scientific inquiry, because, mainstream science doesn't really accept what we're doing just yet.
Right.
So it is a field of inquiry, I guess you could say, of research. This is not a religion, and don't treat it like a religion. And don't get so bent out of shape, man, when people are like, look at your picture or listen to your thing and be like, I don't think this is what this says. I mean, I've gotten so many nasty grams from people in the past that are like, hey, Rick, take a look at my picture or listen to this. And it's like, well, I'm not seeing or hearing that, man. And It's like they just get freaked out, because it's like it's almost as if they're turning this into the spiritualism of the 21st century. They're turning it into a religion. And I think that's dangerous, because it's like we cannot. Psychical research, parapsychology, ghost hunting, whatever you want to call it, has been around for over 130 years, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Are we any closer to proving the existence of life after death than we
that's
were?
Debatable.
130. Some people would say yes, some would say no. I'm in the no factor. We have not yet been able to conclusively prove that this kind of stuff doesn't exist, or rather conclusively prove that this stuff exists. We haven't
Exactly.
done that yet. And it's as we're in the same spot as we were 130 years ago when Frederick Myers and Edmund Gurney, were running around, and Sir Henry Sidgwick were running around trying to do their thing back in the early days of this. It's like, don't treat this as a religion. This is a field of inquiry. You're not trying to convert people. Yes, you're trying to show that this stuff exists, but it's like, this is not God.
Right.
And don't treat it like that.
Well, that's the struggle we're going to be faced with, and I know you know this as well, but we're faced with the struggle of this constant fad, and then this mixture of ignorance. Mm-hmm. People who just literally think because they watch a show that they understand it, yet they don't know who people like James Fort or Konstantin Rodev, those folks. They don't know who these are because they only watch the shows.
Ben, I'm going to tell you a quick story, and I shit you not, okay? I shit you not, you're my favorite turd. But
thank you.
And there was a post that somebody wrote, right, it's like, answer who you would like to, go ghost hunting with. So me being the natural smartass that I am, I go in there and I look, and it's like, well, I want to go, and with Chip Coffee, and I want to go in with Zach, and I want to go and do this. So I write down Henry Myers, Henry Sidgwick, Edmund Gurney, and other names of the founders of the Society for Psychical Research. I'm not kidding you. I had somebody actually message me and ask me, well, those names sound British. What British television show are they on?
Oh my God. I
was like, oh, you know what? It's called the Society for Psychical Research, but they've been dead for almost 100 years now, and it's smart ass. It's like, well, what are you kidding me here? You don't know. You claim to be this expert. You claim, that you have this, that you love this field, and yet you don't even know where it comes from.
Right. They sound British.
What British television show are they on? I should say, they're on Most Haunted, or, Scream Team, or, Haunted Homes,
right.
Which is actually kind of one that I actually sort of dig a little bit, but.
Haunted Homes?
Yeah, Haunted Homes. I
haven't seen that one.
It's pretty good. I like it.
To be honest, I haven't seen. Do we even watch any shows? I'm trying to think right now if there's any show out that we watch. I don't think there is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I want to watch the Gospel Hour, I guess I could just watch Ghost Adventures, but yeah, or Paranormal State, but
there is one show that I have been watching, one of the newer ones, Ghost Stalkers.
I dig John Tenney, man. I always have.
I like John Tenney a lot. I also own David Roundtree's book, Paranormal Technology.
Mm-hmm. Had him on, this guy.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate the work that they're doing. So
I think Chad needs to man up and grow a pair, and stop.
Dude, yeah, and he's from Washington State, where I live, and so like, Chad, dude, stop screaming like a bitch. Like you got this, dude. You can do it.
Yeah, it's like
you're still alive. You did one season, right?
Yeah, it's like you're not doing this. You're not doing us any service when you do a dude run every episode.
Oh my God, yeah. It's not macho. We need macho.
No, I'm not even worried about macho, man, because it's like I was. You know what, dude? I'm not kidding you. The best paranormal investigators and researchers that I have worked with have all been women.
Yeah.
All of them.
I work next to one of my all-time favorite paranormal researchers, Nicole. Not only that, she's just beautiful.
I've had enough of this already.
Barf.
No, I'm joking. But no, seriously, it's like, and this right now, it's like people are like, well, why is this such a men's game? And it's like, I don't know, but it's like some of the best researchers and investigators that I've ever worked with have all been women, and we need that. a lot.
Yeah.
You know, we
Well,
that needs to be explored a little bit more.
yeah. And when I said the macho thing, just because I tend to jump from one extreme to the other,
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
but like you do have your folk like out there, like Zach Baggins would be a perfect example of being the extreme macho end of
The
it.
fret
But
boy.
yeah, but then you've got the softy like Chad.
Yeah.
You need somebody kind of in the middle, but yeah, it's you just need real people doing the research, and nobody needs a dude run, that's for sure. Well, I think at this point, honestly, this has been such an insightful conversation.
I had a lot of fun. This
I've
was
had
a fun conversation.
Good, and that's what I want with the guests, and that's what I hope for. This has been kind of a new experience, not only for myself, but for Nicole, because very first show for her, and that's she's probably like, I didn't talk a whole lot, but
you're in training, and that's okay.
Yeah,
Thanks for being my first, Rick.
Yeah. Oh, you're quite welcome.
So we're trying to figure that whole thing out, but you've been an excellent test bed of sorts.
Thank you.
Guinea pig, and it's just been such a great conversation all through. So even with some of the hiccups, like Windows screwing with you.
Windows configuring, it's like I'm like I see this thing, and it comes up and it's starting, and I'm like, Ben, you there? Ben, God damn it, it's doing it again.
It was awesome too, because he goes, I'm gonna lose you, and the second you said that, it shut off, and we were like, wow, what did you say?
You said you're psychic.
Yeah. You knew it was happening.
I knew it was gonna happen. It's like, oh, you son of a bitch. But yeah, okay.
So real quick,
we pulled through.
Yeah, we did. We trudged right through that. That isn't going to stop us, that's for sure. But that's the beauty of pre-recording these shows.
Exactly.
Real quick, give yourself a plug. Throw out some of your stuff out there, as well as pimp your book out.
Okay. My book is The Geek's Guide to the Strange and Unusual, Poltergeist, Ghosts, and Demons. Now, demons was supposed to be originally put in quotes, but my publisher decided that wasn't such a great idea. That would confuse people. Whatever. So it's The Geek's Guide to the Strange and Unusual, Poltergeist, Ghosts, and Demons. You can find it at createspace.com. You can find it at Amazon. Not really so much in bookstores yet, but everybody buys from Amazon these days.
But that's where I found mine. I found yours in a bookstore.
Exactly, and I thank you for that, because that is going to help me put my kid through college one day.
That's awesome.
And you can also find on Thursday nights at hazyradio.com from 8 to 9 p.m. Central. I host Common Sense Paranormal Radio. It is the radio for the rest of us, for the serious researcher, the serious seeker for truth. You can also, of course, find me at paranormalunderground.net, where it's an online magazine. I write an article for it every other month. You can also find me at supernaturalmagazine.com, which is a British-based online magazine. It's not only my stuff that you're going to see there, but you're going to see other great articles from other great writers and researchers, from not just from here in the United States, but in Britain, from Ireland, and from all other parts of the world.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great exposure right there.
Yeah, I love it, and it's like the editor Nori Miles. She's a beautiful person. She's just very nice. The place where I made my screen debut, which was Ghost Tapes 2. You could find that at YouTube. Just type in Ghost Tapes 2. And then you can also see me in a couple different episodes of Ghost Tapes the series. So it's awesome. I do a lot.
You're a busy man.
But you know what? And I tell this to everybody. It's like, we're not married to this, Make time for your family. That's what comes first.
Yep, exactly. That's very important. And some of us are even more fortunate to be able to share this kind of passion or this experience with their loved one, like myself. So I'm a little bit even more fortunate in that department.
That's awesome. You know, my wife, even though she is supportive, but she also understands that this is something that I've been doing my entire life. So it's like, you know, she's supportive, yet she doesn't really get involved,
Right.
which is cool, man. You know,
Yeah.
I can dig it.
Oh yeah, I know other couples that are like that as well. So I definitely would like to encourage everybody to check out Rick's show.
You can also
Common
find me on
Sense
Facebook too,
Paranormal.
of course. You know,
Oh yeah,
Facebook as well. Just Rick Hale. There's nothing fancy. It's not like a fan page. It's just, you know, come and friend me, man. You know, we'll chat.
I still think you need to come out with All Hail Paranormal.
Nah, I don't think
Not-
so. But
no,
nah,
you're not feeling that one.
nah, I'm not feeling it.
Damn it! I was hoping for royalties.
How about like what the hell paranormal?
Oh
what?
no, that's even worse. But
It's punny. What are you talking about?
Punny and funny. Well, Rick, thank you so much.
Thank you for
Seriously,
having
for
me.
taking the time, out of your life to sit down and chat with us. We definitely would like to have you back on later on down the road when we polish this this whole machine up
Anytime.
and continue our conversations. And then I will be in touch to let you know when we come out your way because we'd love to meet up and see you. And
Definitely,
if
absolutely.
you ever come out to the Pacific Northwest, you better let me know.
I will actually, you know, and you know, to pimp a good friend of our mutual friend of ours, of course, being, you know, William Becker.
Yes.
It looks like the missus and I may be attending his next psychic development classes when he has it again at the Stanley in November.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so
You're going to love it.
And that,
Yeah.
I do not doubt it.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, you have a great night,
You too.
and we will we'll talk to you later.
Okay, thank you very
All right.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Okay, have a good night.
Okay, so we just got done chatting with Rick, and you know, again, with this being the very first show of the year, as well as the first show as Nicole joining me to host ASAP Radio, I kind of felt like it went, you know, pretty well. I mean, I know I talk a lot.
You like to talk.
You need to talk more.
Okay.
But it'll come with time, you know. Like Rick said, you're in training.
I am.
You know, I like training you.
Mhm.
So, what did you, you know, with regard to how the conversation went, what did you pull from that? What was your favorite part of that conversation with Rick?
I thought it was a really good learning experience, and just hearing his take on things. It's kind of nice to just bounce things off each other.
Especially with somebody that's got that, you know, much experience.
Right. I mean, huge. Over
Math,
30,
it's an axis of
32,
evil. I don't mess with
33
it.
years, I think he said. That's insane. That's how old I am. My whole life he's been doing this. It's crazy.
It is, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I enjoyed. I always enjoy what he has to say, because, and I think it really goes along very well with the title of his new show, Common Sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it really, he's a common sense kind of grounded individual, and that I think is almost a hard attribute to find in a lot of folks out there, sadly, because they become so hell-bent on one thing or another that they lose sight of, you know, being grounded in common sense with their whole approach and their perception and their even just learning in general. So,
or some people just don't have common sense to begin with.
There's that too.
I really
yeah.
wish you could teach common sense. But
Yeah, that would be nice, but that would be damn near impossible.
Right. What I also loved about Rick was that, you know, we have some of the same thoughts about things and feelings, and yet there's things that we differ on, but it's okay. Like, we don't feel the need to attack each other or be combative about it.
Yeah.
It's like we can sit and be adults and talk about it, and hey, you think what you think and I think what I think, and that's cool.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
respect
At the end
each
of the
other
day,
for it.
we're all still trying to do the same thing. You know,
Mhm.
we're trying to seek some answers out, get better understanding, and just, you know, help people as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was a great show, and I look forward to doing more of these and, you know, getting you more involved, which is, I think, going to be an awesome element to this show.
I am pretty awesome.
You are. I love you to death.
Aw,
So,
schmoops.
keyword death. Crickets. All right. Well, everybody, have a great night and stay tuned for more upcoming shows with ASAP Radio. And thank you for tuning in.
Bye.
It was a nightmare.